welcome to episode 13 of On the Lookout. In this week, it's an NBA special with the playoffs heating up, so we're looking at top players from the teams in the playoffs, seeing where their market currently is and where it's been over the last year. Let's see if there's any surprises or any surprise players that you might not think about that people have invested in and are now doing well, or now not doing too well at all. So without further ado, let's look into the data. So we're starting with Anthony Edwards, aka Ant-Man, aka Baby Jordan. We have his Prism Silver in PSA 10, PSA 9 in a Raw. We also have the Optic Holo in PSA 10, PSA 9 and Raw. As you can see, all of them are up on the year, 250%, 362%, crazy amounts. The PSA 10 Silver at the Prism is a pop 1,651. As you can see, for the last, just 6 months there, crazy graphs. The pop on the PSA 9 is 2,446. The Holo PSA 10 is a pop of 549, and the PSA 9 is a pop of 927. So as you can see, quite consistent throughout the year. I think there was hype with Ant-Man before the season, during the season played well, but as you can see, these last few weeks, the playoffs, they have taken off. Clean sweep, obviously in the first round, and now 2-up against the Nuggets. Has a lot of people believing in the Ant-Man. Personally, I think he's an absolute baller, and as you see here, the last 30 days, I mean, look at that. You know, that PSA 10 up 153%. The Silver, the Prism as well, up 173%. The PSA 9 is Optic Holo is up 336%, which is crazy. Absolutely crazy. But yeah, you know, again, absolute baller. I think people enjoy watching him play. Again, he's getting the comparisons to MJ. So you know, that's always a good comparison, right? Look at the total sales for the last 30 days, as you can see, sort of all over the show, especially with the Prism Silver PSA 10. Look at total sales. Look at the graph, is crazy. 20k upwards in a month of the year, sorry. And then if you look at the number of sales, you can see, no surprise that the Prism is, you know, double, treble outselling the Optic. But yeah, these are cards that are quite easily attainable. Like maybe not so much the PSA 10 of the Prism Silver anymore, but you know, you can always get a decent rookie of Anthony Edwards, especially if it's the Optic. I mean, $136, $174 for PSA 9, it's not horrendous. And again, same with the Prism Silver Raw, at $389 or $390 respectively for a PSA 9. You know, personally, I would pick up a 9 for $390, and I'd pick up a 9 of the Holo as well, $374. You know, not a bad purchase. But it's good to see that obviously over the 365 days, it's selling well. A lot of people are investing heavily in Ant-Man. I think that won't change going into the next season as well. I think that'll be very interesting. Right, and next up we have Jalen Brunson. Lucky enough to see him play at Madison Square Garden at the beginning of the year. Stood out a lot since he's moved from the Mavs. I mean, imagine that now, imagine Brunson and Luka. But instead he's balling out the Knicks. If you look here, we have his Prism Silver Raw in a PSA 9, which is a pop of 623. And we have the PSA 10, which is a pop of 434. We also have the Holo Raw, the Holo PSA 9, which is a pop of just 66, and the Holo in a PSA 10, Optic Holo, sorry, is the PSA 10, is a pop of just 36. Again, most of them up on the year, except for the Optic Holo, which is PSA 9, which is down 41% at just $17. I think that's possibly like someone put an auction at the wrong time and they sell too well. So I didn't sell too well. Looking at the price of the Raw, $38, it's, you know, should be a little bit higher. Again, if you look at the last 6 months, look at that graph, look at that PSA 10 has just been shooting up of his Prism. Again, I think we'll see this throughout the whole episode. We're going to see Prism, selling well. It's a very liquid card, the Prism Silver. That's why we bring it up for data. I always think it's a good one to invest in. And again, same with Hollows. Doesn't sell as well, but I don't understand why, because the Rookie logo is very nice to have on there. But again, very low pops, and for a very good price. Personally, in my opinion, I think it's a very good price. Again, look at the last 30 days since he's blown out for the Knicks in the playoffs. No surprise there. The price is, not horrendous, let's face it. For a PSA 9 of his Prism Silver, pop 623, $84.99. Crazy. Again, $180 for a PSA 10, pop 36 of the Optic Hollow. Very, very reasonable. If you're a Knicks fan, granted it is in the Mavs uniform, it's his 2018, his rookie year, so not ideal, but again, to have a rookie of a guy that's just taking you to your first series win for God knows how long, definitely worth investing in, or at least if anyone wants to collect, should we say. But yeah, Jalen Brunson is balling out. Let's face it, he's balling out over there. I think what is interesting is, if you look at the totals, the number of sales as well. On the year, it was his Prism Raw that people invested heavily in, with 274 sales over the year. Then next it was the PSA 9 of the Prism of 193, and then the PSA 10 168 sales. Whereas the Optic Raw only 84 sales on the year, which is interesting. Basically, I think it's a nice card to have in your collection, as a rookie, and a very attainable one. And next up we have Tyrese Halliburton. So we have his Prism Silver Raw. It's currently $39.75. That's up 246%. We have his Prism Silver PSA 9, pop 1,135. That is down 4% to $39.50. We have his Prism Silver PSA 10, pop 334, which is currently at $358, which is up 28% on the year. And we have his Optic Hollow Raw, which is $15, up 45%. His Optic Hollow PSA 9, pop 390, which is $30.40, up 121% on the year. And the Optic Hollow PSA 10, pop 269 at $100, which is down 2%. Interesting, obviously, because last year he wasn't having any impact, especially in the sort of the playoffs. With the Pacers this year, he's had a really good year. Had All-Star, there was a lot of hype. It was obviously in Indiana. Sort of dropped off. You can see a little bit there in the sales. Just before the sort of like the February March era. Got through to the next round in the playoffs. It's interesting. Obviously, currently getting beat by the Knicks. I think it's 2-0, so not ideal. Probably one of their stars. Obviously, he's in his Sacramento uniforms, but as you can see, the last 30 days, some of these cards have taken a bit of a spike up, which is good. Number of sales in the last 30 days quite consistent now, with the Raw Prism being 54 sales. Next one there being the PSA 9 as a Prism. Look on the year again, same. Raw was 413 sales, PSA 9 229 sales. So you sort of see where the money's going. Prism Raw, Prism PSA 9. I think a lot of people may have tried to crack and clean and resubmit, getting that 10 with the price bump. Again, if you're picking up a PSA 9 for $39, and you can get to $250. Next up is Nikola Jokic. There was no optic for Nikola Jokic, so we had his Prism Silver in Raw, $485, down 21%. His Prism Silver PSA 9, pop 351, up 16% on the year at $730. His Prism Silver PSA 10, pop 158, which is currently at $3,630, up 42%. And then we've got his Select. So we have his Premier Select level Raw, which is $298, up 95%. The PSA 9, pop 83, jumped 1%, $355. And then the PSA 10, pop just 46, and that is $1,398, down 7%. As you can see with the graph here, the PSA 10 is the big boy. Had a big dip back in last year in October. So if you bought that sort of time period looking out to the playoffs, you've made yourself a nice bit of money, because that was just above $2,000. It's now just under $4,000. So not bad there if you've made that play. Obviously, Jokic, one of the players we all love to watch him. He's been outplayed, maybe outsmarted at the moment, and Timberwolves are sort of dominating that matchup. They've really sort of boxed him out, played him out. The big men have done their job well against him. So we know that they're probably not going to go back to back. It's looking unlikely at the moment, being 2-0 down against a Minnesota team that is on fire with Cat, Rudy, and obviously Ant-Man. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens to his prices. Obviously, big men don't really get the love in the hobby as maybe as they deserve. This is 2-time MVP. Could possibly win it this year. So yeah, it's interesting looking at his prices. And look at that little zip up there in the last 30 days. Number of sales again, not the most fluid card last 30 days with 4 sales. Over the last year, again, 64 sales is the biggest one, which is the PSA 9 of his Prism Silver, which is a pop of 351. So again, maybe it's a big man thing, I don't know, but Nikola Jokic is a baller, undoubtedly, and his cards are there to buy. And next up we have the hobby darling, maybe, I don't know, Jason Tatum. I think he's a bit of a Marmite people. I think some people love him, some people think he's overrated. We have his Prism Silver Raw, which is $230 at the moment, currently up 51%. He's a Prism Silver PSA 9 pop 568, which is $205, which is down 6%. And then we have his Prism Silver PSA 10 pop 854, currently at $850, up 8% on the year. We have his Optic Hollow Raw, which is currently $91, which is down 30% on the year. Is hollow in a PSA 9, which is pop 336, which is $107, down 48%. And the hollow in a PSA 10, pop 462, and that is currently down 40% at $250. So again, it makes some of his rookie cards, especially with the Optic with the rated rookie logo on there, very affordable. $91 for Raw, $107 for a PSA 9. No, not horrendous pricing at all. His Prism Silver is obviously a bit more higher end, still a very liquid card. You're looking at sales throughout the year, you can see it sells quite a lot, and there was a big dip in August last year, which is interesting. If anyone got that, they are very, very happy themselves right now on that Prism Silver PSA 10, dropping down to less than $300 compared to where it is now. As you can see, the last 30 days, with the Celtics obviously smashing the playoffs, they're probably one of the favourites to be in the finals in the East. So, I don't think maybe it's sort of baked into his price already. He's not having like a standout like Ant-Man and that sort of spike that Ant-Man having. Last 30 days, it's his PSA 10 with the most sales on his Prism and his Optic Hollow. Both of them doing good on sales. Look at over the year, it's the Prism doing 152 sales on the year, Prism PSA 10, and the Optic Hollow PSA 10 doing 93 sales, pretty much doubling everything else out there, which is interesting to see where the money goes. Which is interesting, this one is obviously his Optic Raw and PSA 9 are doing better than the PSA 9 and PSA and the Raw of the Prism, which is very interesting. You don't see that a lot with all these players, so something to bear in mind with Tatum. But yeah, absolute baller. Been unfortunate not to get a ring. I think he probably will in his lifetime because he's a baller. Believe it this year, who knows? And next up is Spider, aka Donovan Mitchell. It's not Donovan Mitchell, aka Spider, by the way. We have his Optic Hollow Raw, which is currently $16.24, down 2% on the year. We have his Optic Hollow PSA 9 pop 211, down 9% to $15, and his Optic Hollow PSA 10 pop 383, currently at $96, down 26% on the year. We have his Prism Silver Raw, which is currently $69, up 11% on the year. His Silver Prism in PSA 9 pop 601, currently at $47, down 48%. And the Prism Silver Raw PSA 10 pop 610, currently down 23% at $191. Obviously, the Cavs, everyone's favourite team, probably not like to win this year, even with Darius Garland and Evan Mobley. But he's a baller nonetheless. I think he's helped them because he's not a one-man team, but he's helped them win their first series since LeBron left. I'm a big Donovan Mitchell fan. I've got a few of his, I think I've got 2 of his jerseys, 1 or 2 of his jerseys upstairs. A couple of pair of his basketball trainers. I do like Donovan Mitchell. I do like Spider. And I think again his rookies there, some desirable liquid rookies are very easy and cheap to attain. You know, if you're looking at the PSA 10 of his optic color, probably just $383, $96. You know, even a PSA 9 of his Prism Silver at $47. Granted, it is down 48%, so it could be a bit of a variable there. Could be a few people that put auctions at the wrong time, but still, you know, the silver raw is 69, so it probably isn't going to be too much more than that. Again, not the most amount of sales over the last 30 days, considering, you know, they've just won the first series again since LeBron left, but consistently moving. You know, probably not the biggest market of Cleveland fans. I know. I do think Donovan probably will move. I don't know if it's going to be him or Garland, but I think they'll probably invest more in Garland over in Cleveland. So I think Donovan Mitchell will move. Where to, I don't know. But yeah, he's a baller. I think he'll move. So maybe that'll help his market. So maybe you get these now in hopes of a big move to a bigger market. I mean, I know they talked about the Knicks doing everything he can to get Booker. I mean, maybe they do something similar, where you don't have to give it up as much to get Donovan Mitchell. But yeah, we'll see. If we look at numbers, sales, again, not the most amount over the last 30 days, mainly his PSA 10 of his Prism Silver moving just 9 times. Next up was the Optic Hollow PSA 10. Over the year, 73 sales on the Prism PSA 10. Next closest was the Optic Hollow PSA 10 at 46. So again, not a great deal of investment in him, which is a surprise because he's an absolute baller. But again, maybe it's down to his market. We'll see. And next up we have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I don't like to say that name too much. I'll probably butcher it. Maybe Shay. I don't know how you pronounce it. We have his Optic Hollow Raw. It's $82.88. Currently up 127% on the year. The Optic Hollow PSA 9 pop 336, which is currently $95, up 90% on the year. And the Hollow PSA 10 pop 236 at $273, up 79% on the year. Followed by the Prism Silver Raw, which is $143, up 111% on the year. The PSA 9 pop 1,922, currently at $150, up 226% on the year. And the Silver Prism PSA 10 pop 618 at $655, up 31% on the year. You know, I think there's been a lot, especially the way the OKC started the season. There was a lot of talk, a lot of hype about him. His prices were, you know, up, down, left, right. He's balled out. I think a lot of people thought that maybe last year that he was putting on a show and he was, you know, they were going to move and they were going to invest more in Chet and sort of the younger core. But the guy been balling out. He is, you know, an all-star. They were the first seed in the West. They are currently winning their series, I believe. You know, against the Mavs. It's his world and we're just living in it. He's balling out. What can we say? I mean, look at this again. Like you said, look at this. You know, sales in the last 30 days, 51 on the PSA 9 Prism, and the Raw did 43 sales. You know, over the year you can see that it's Prism PSA 9 did 300 sales and the Prism Raw did 262. Next closest was the Prism PSA 10 at 139. So that's sort of where the investment has been on in Shai, who hush hush I do I. But no, absolute baller. It's interesting to see where the money's going in him. And next up and last up is Luka. You know, people invested heavily in Luka before the COVID booms. We have the Silver Prism Raw at $399, currently down 6%. The Prism Silver PSA 9 pop 2,587, currently down 6% at $406. And the Prism Silver PSA 10 pop 2,291, currently down 19% at $1,110. We also have the Optic Hollow Raw, which is currently up 24% on the year at $270, which is the only one up on the year. The Hollow in a PSA 9 pop 579, down 22% to $244. And the Optic Hollow PSA 10 pop 342, currently down 33% to $675. As you can see with Luka's charts on the screens, you know, everyone loves Luka. You know, the sales are there. People who invested heavily in Luka for a long time. He's a baller. You know, he makes plays and shots that he just shouldn't make. Let's be honest. You know, there's no if, maybes, and buts about it. He is, a certified baller. I think it's good now to see him in a playoff run. I think how last year ended with him and Kyrie, where they sort of didn't win for a long time, compared to how it had been this year. And Kyrie was someone else I looked into, but it just wasn't as much data on his rookie card, especially because of the optic. It was just prism, etc. But so that's why I chose Luka. Again, look at that, consistent sales, not the most by any means, but again, a bit more of a expensive buy-in compared to my other players we've looked at. Look at sales last 30 days. 23 of his PSA 10 is, that's the most sales we've got there on any of his PSA 10 Prism. Is the most we've got on any of his cards. Next closest was 12 on his PSA 9 Prism Silver. Over the year, 352 on that Prism Silver PSA 10 and 152 on the Prism Silver PSA 9. So you can sort of see where the money was going to, investment wise on Luka, especially when he's 17 sales on the year of his Optic Holo Raw. So be interested to see how far the Mavs go, but let's enjoy the day. Let's enjoy the ride. There's a Brucey Bones one. Just because of OKC, I felt like Chet should have got a bit of a shout out. So looking at his Holo. We have his Holo Raw, it's just $14, down 68%. The Holo PSA 9 popped 218 at $24.76, which is down 8%. And then we have the Holo PSA 10 pop 115, currently at $117, down 15%. The Prism Silver Raw down 51%, $51.75, which is currently up 52%. The Prism Silver PSA 9 pops 697, currently at $66.98. Up 18% on the year. And then the Prism Silver PSA 10 pop 461 at 271, up 18% on the year. Again, even with the OKC in a playoff run at the moment, is sort of sales a bit of an upward trajectory, as you can see with all the greens there. Nothing too major, a few ebbs and flows, a few spikes and a few dips. But again, he's someone that technically is his first year in the league because he was injured. Look at his number of sales, 60 Prism Raw and the Prism PSA 9 that have done the most. Look at that. On the year, 753 sales of the Prism Raw. The next one was the Optic Holo Raw at 289 sales a year. So you can see people trying to buy Raw, get it graded and make money, which is always a smarter play. Despite sometimes this data telling us that the 9s are very close.